Welcome to the Randy Gravitt Leadership Podcast, where we help you lead the hardest person you will ever lead, yourself. Here's your host, someone who believes leadership begins at home, Randy Gravitt.
Who's winning? I mean, here we are, last part of 2020. We're in the middle of football season. My question for you is, who's winning? And I'm not talking about a football team. I'm talking about you or yourself. The hardest person you've competed with this year is not somebody at work or not some schedule that you've had to adjust to. It actually is you, the person you see in the mirror when you look. And I know leaders, this is such a challenge for us to win against ourselves. So we're starting a new month, believe it or not. Here we go into the home stretch of 2020. It's November. It's just crazy. Here we are. But as we get ready for November, and I'm hoping you've got some big plans the next few weeks. You got holidays coming up, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and maybe you're even traveling some. Most people are kind of locked down right now, not a lot of traveling going on, but you might even be going somewhere to be with family. But I want to ask you a question. Have you just kind of mailed it in for the rest of the year? Or are you just thinking, well, it's almost 2021 and I'll just wait and I'm going to coast the next few weeks? Please don't do that. We really need for you to what I'll call level up. I want to talk about leveling up these next few weeks. We're going to spend some time talking about what it means to level up. How could we make a little more progress or get a little closer to the finish line, get a little closer to the vision, the mountain, however you want to think. Maybe some of you got goals out there, projects that are still not finished. There's things that you can do. And so I'm going to give you some things these next few weeks that are going to help you level up. And I've got some what I'll call distractions or some danger points. They're barriers to high performance. They could actually get in your way. So we're going to have a chance to look at those. And I'm convinced these next few weeks could be the best few weeks of the year. And then I got something really exciting I want to share with you at the end about how we're going to start off 2021. So it's going to be so good. So let's get started here as we try to win against ourselves. So let's think about this first idea. I've been envisioning a staircase as I've thought about my own leadership. And I like this idea of a staircase because there's, you see the top and you think, man, it would be hard to jump up there. You can't do that. And there's no way to get to the top without taking step by step. And I want us to think a little bit about these steps that we can take to make progress, to get closer to where we want to be. So this first step that I want us to think about, this first way that we level up as leaders is a very simple word. It's a very narrow word, but it's a word I think we often neglect. I was in an event recently where a friend of mine was speaking, and he told this story about a meeting that took place between Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. And you think about two guys that have made a lot of money. These guys have made a lot of money. A lot of people would say they're very successful guys, and they've done a lot for the world with their money. And so if you think about these two guys, it'd be very interesting to pick their brain. Well, they're in the same room. And actually, I think the story goes that they were meeting in this room. And Bill Gates' dad asked a question. He asked them both if they would take out a little piece of paper. He handed them a piece of paper. That's the way I heard it. And he said, I'd like for you to write down, is there, if you had one word to describe what it is or to give you the success that you've had, what would that word be? What would be the one word that you would say has led to your success? And he had them both write down this word, and he took the papers back and he folded up both papers, put them in his pocket. And the story goes, when he got home, he took both the pieces of paper out and he opened them up. And supposedly both papers had the same word on them. And the word was the word I want us to talk about today. It's the word focus. It's the word focus. Focus is such a powerful concept, and yet sometimes it's hard for us to think about what is real focus. I have a friend of mine, actually a guy who I work with, a guy on our team, one of our coaches. He has a daughter who this last year took up archery and started shooting in these competitions. And my friend Scott was telling me that he would go to these events, and he didn't really know a lot about archery. Most of us have not been around archery. We don't know a lot about it. But he said they had these targets, and I'm in a room with Scott, and he draws up on a whiteboard this target, and he starts putting little dots in the outside of this target, and then he just layers it. If you can picture in your mind an archery target, there are rings that just get smaller and smaller as you get closer to the inside. And Scott puts these dots on the outside ring, and he says, I found out that when you hit out here on the target, you actually get points for that. And when you get closer to the middle, you get more points, and closer next ring, you get more points. You got all down to the inside ring, you get more points there. And then there's the one in the middle, you know where we're going here, the bullseye. And Scott says it this way. He said, you get a whole lot of points if you hit the bullseye. It is a force multiplier when we're able to focus. Well, I don't have an archery target, but I do have I grew up hunting and fishing. If you're watching on YouTube here, I'm holding a couple of shells in my hand. One is a shotgun shell. And if you know anything about shotgun shells, this thing has several pellets inside. I don't know, probably 40, 50 pellets in this thing. And when you shoot a shotgun, it spreads out. It's this scattered pattern that comes out of the barrel of the gun, as opposed to a rifle shell. This rifle shell has a single tip on it, and this thing, when it is shot, it creates one hole. I mean, it is laser focused. I think that's a good visual for us when we think about leading ourselves. Sometimes it's easy to get bogged down, or let's just call it distracted, and our leadership loses focus. It begins to spread out, and we get spread too thin. And if we're not careful, we can become much more sporadic in our leadership than we are strategic or focused. I like that picture of the bullseye from that archery contest, because it gives me this visual picture of narrowing the focus down. Now, let me warn you today, there's something going on that is causing us to lose focus. There's a couple things going on. One of them is it can be the speed of our leadership. We get involved in something important, and all of a sudden we got it rolling, and things are going well, and we got a project here and a team there, and we got meetings. And the next thing you know, if we're not careful, the speed of our work or the importance of our work can cause us to lose focus. That's one thing that can happen. But there's a second thing, and I'm just going to bundle this idea under the word distraction. I think distractions are one of the leveling up killers. They bring us down. They cause us to level down a step. We're not going to go up without focus. We're actually going to come down because of distraction. Now, let me give you some of these distractions that I find difficult to navigate and maintain focus through. One of them is what I would call screen time. I've just recently ran across a study that said that the average person is on a screen about 12 hours a day now, which is crazy when you think about it. And I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. I mean, you if you're on YouTube, you're watching this on the screen right now, or you may be on your screen scrolling as you're listening to the podcast on iTunes or wherever you're listening from today. But those hours we spend on screen time, sometimes they're work hours, sometimes they're focused hours, but a lot of times those things are just scrolling through social media. They're pushing our way through just another mountain of email that seems to come each day. Email can be a huge distraction as well. And it's not that we don't have to do those things, but when we let those things just give us a notification over and over all day long, and every time we do, we pull up from our work and we get distracted by that. And the next thing you know, we click on this, and now we're shopping for something that we don't need, and we just lose focus in today's world if we're not very careful. And if you're really going to lead yourself and you're going to win against yourself, this is one of the areas that you need to be aware that this is going on, and you're actually in charge of your distractions. You get to decide whether to turn off those notifications, whether to remove those news apps, whatever it is. There's some things that I've actually done to help me eliminate distractions in my life. Here's another distraction I've found recently. I was on a Zoom call with some clients, and it was crazy. We had 4 or 5 of us on this call, and we're all sort of in our homes, as many of us are working from home right now. And all of a sudden, a kid walks into the meeting, And the kid didn't get an invite to the meeting, but the kid comes in, just a little girl, and it was great, to see a young face, and that was fantastic. But it just made me think about all the people right now who are working at home, who are younger than I am. My kids are grown and gone, and so I've got, my own little world here that I get to work out of. But some of you are at home right now, and you are trying to maintain focus, and your kids are there. And because of that, you get distracted, and it's hard to get your work done. So kids can actually be a distraction. But here's another distraction. Some of you, when you try to separate work and home, you just actually go down the hall or go downstairs or go up to your, kid's room or whatever. You try to actually leave work, which you're at home working. That's just crazy to think about. You try to leave work and then engage with your kids. Some of you are having a hard time turning work off. You're trying to be there with your kids, and because of your work, your work becomes a distraction. So when you're at work, your kids are a distraction. When you're with your kids, your work is a distraction. And sometimes we just have this hard time separating these lines of where we should be, that we should be fully present where we are. We should work hard when we're at work. We should love hard when we're with the people that we love, and some of those things. So I want you to really think right now, are there some things that have you distracted? They are causing you to sporadically hit on the outside of the target. You're still getting some points for that. You were with your kids, but if you really weren't with them when you were with them, I think in the long run, you are losing points on the target. So I would encourage you to really evaluate what are the distractions in your life. Could you just remove a few of those? If you remove all of those distractions, it will really help you laser your focus. But I want to get back to this idea of focus. If we thought about leveling up on that staircase, we want to just go up one more step before the end of the year. I've got 3 or 4 steps that I think we can take before the end of the year, but let's just one of them. This might be the most important one. We could get really focused as we go into these last few weeks. Is there one priority that you have between now and the end of the year? And if so, I want to ask you to write that down. Like, what is the one thing you would say, I need to do between now and the end of the year? And I want to think about this idea before we go today. I want to think about this idea of priority. It is a singular word by definition. I'm fascinated when I hear the word priority, and you go back and you can look this up. The original meaning of it, it's singular. Priority, it is singular. And yet we in our culture have decided we're going to have a bunch of priorities. And we say that. These are my priorities. Like, by definition, you can only have one priority. There's only one thing that moves to the top. Now, I will give you that you can have different areas of your life, but you still have to say in the area of fitness, this is my number one thing. In the area of my finances, this is my number one thing. Relationally, this is my number one thing. And then as you begin to think about all those things, I would encourage you to ask yourself, what is my number one thing out of all my number one things? Let's narrow those priorities down to a priority, like one level of focus. The danger is the faster we go, the more we try, the more we're responsible for, the more we're bombarded with outside clutter and paperwork and junk mail and emails and details, all these things. The easier it is for us to become distracted, to lose focus, to begin to just, honestly, we talk about this all the time, to play whack-a-mole with our leadership, with our life, and we're just putting out fires rather than being really strategic and really focused on what it would mean to make a great difference in the lives of those around us, but also in our own personal life. So I want to challenge you as we enter into November. There's just a few weeks left in the year. You do not have permission to mail it in and to check out and just say, I'm going to coast for the next few weeks. It's the holidays. It doesn't matter. It does matter. We need for you to be at your best. We need you to win against you, because if you can beat yourself, if you can stay focused, if you can eliminate distraction, and you can level up just one more step, you can position yourself to have tremendous influence over these next few weeks. And really, not just these next few weeks, you can position yourself to have a dominant 2021, as we talked about on last week's time. So let's get that one area of priority, and let's just create focus You might even put a target on your wall and say, this is going to be my thing as I go into these next few weeks. I'm going to get this done. If I don't get anything else done, this is going to be my thing. I'm going to do that so I can win at work, but also so I can win at home. I can keep work and home separate. I can focus on the things that matter most. And as I do, I can trust that it's gonna make my life better, and all of a sudden everything around me gets better. Because when leaders get better, we say it, everything around them gets better. So let's get focused this week. Let's level up, and let's make sure that we finish this year as strong as any year we've ever finished. Let these next few weeks be your best few weeks of the year. Before we go today, I want to ask you to do a couple things. First, we would really love it if you would help us continue to spread the word. Thank you for subscribing. Hit that like button. If you've got a friend or another fellow leader who's out there, a family member, somebody you know that could use some encouragement when it comes to their own development, please share this with someone and help us spread the word. And then secondly, I want to tell you about something that we've been developing, something that we've got coming as we begin a new year, just in a few weeks. We have a new course coming out called 21 Days to Your Best Year Ever. And we really believe that this next year is going to be an incredible year, but it won't happen if we hope it happens. Hope is not a strategy. We're going to have a way to think about this and a way to attack that. And so we developed a course that is going to give you a framework to really go after every day of your next year. It's going to be fantastic. And so you're going to hear more about that in the coming days, but I wanted to just get you to think about that, help you to be anticipating that. It's going to be really something that you're going to want to be a part of. So thank you for listening today. We'll see you Wednesday on the Coach's Corner, where we go a little bit deeper on today's topic. And then we've got a great follow-up interview to last Friday's interview with Dan Webster. He's going to be back with us again this week. So it's going to be a fantastic week. Let's go make it happen together.
Thanks for listening to the Randy Gravitt Leadership Podcast. Please help us spread the word by sharing today's episode with your friends and coworkers. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel on Spotify or through iTunes. You'll find all the links on the media tab at randygravitt.com. Now, let's go apply what we've learned and lead ourselves well. Remember, leadership begins at home.